So today's video is going to be a little bit on the spicy side, but I tend to not shy away from topics like that because I think being able to have a conversation, an open dialogue about these things is very important. And in 2024, there is no nuanced conversation. There is no sort of open dialogue. It's a very culture war area for video games. And I think it's pretty ridiculous because of a myriad of factors. We'll kind of get into some of those as we go along. But it seems like a hot topic issue right now in video games is that a lot of video game players don't like women characters, and that is why certain games maybe aren't hitting sales metrics. That is why some people are writing off games, and that sort of mentality is perpetuated by this ongoing video game culture war. And if you don't have a strong side of either side, you're not like pledging allegiance to one side versus the other side, you're kind of lost in the shuffle. And I just think this is a very interesting and kind of weird conversation to have. So I just want to talk about kind of my perspective and how I see things as someone who doesn't really consider themselves to be an extremist in really anything in life. You know, I'm a pretty centric sort of person. I view situations on a case by case basis, but there definitely is a mentality right now that a lot of people have, that a lot of, websites seem to perpetuate, that gamers hate women characters. And I find that very puzzling. Are there gamers that do? Sure. Do they make up a small amount of people? Is that voice something that is really worth giving credence to, where they immediately see a woman and they write off a game? Like, no, everyone's allowed to have their opinion, but their opinion shouldn't be amplified to the point of where that becomes like a stigma. This isn't, the olden days of video games, to where it was a strictly male dominated hobby. But even then, because I'm someone who's old, I think back in time, and there were lots of lead women characters. Whether you're looking at like fighting games, which had large female a representation, if that's what you want to call it, where a lot of characters were female based characters. Look at something like Mortal Kombat 2. Some of the most played characters in that game were female. You of course have characters like Samus in the Metroid franchise. You have characters like Lara Croft. You had characters like the Fear Effect series. Like, there were female characters back then, and nobody really cared. Nobody really cared, and there wasn't really a culture war with this or anything like that, because we were growing video games. The video game medium wasn't infiltrated by Hollywood and all this sort of stuff. It was a very underground sort of thing. So we took something and we looked at it and we were like, oh, this is good, we like this game, or oh, this is bad, we don't like this game. But it seems like in the modern era, if a game has a female lead character, there are some people, not a large group of people, but there are some people who immediately write the game off. And then that gives enough sort of ammunition for places like websites and YouTubers and very outspoken personalities on social media to start creating this war, this ongoing war against female lead characters in video games, to where you get called names and stuff like it. It's so damn bizarre to me, because if we had an instance where a game with a female lead character was never successful, okay, then maybe you could have this but I mean, there's so many successful games that have female lead characters. The Horizon series has sold over 30 million copies with Aloy. Now, I'm not a fan of Aloy. It's not because she's a woman. It's because she's a boring character, but I still can appreciate the gameplay. I could still appreciate the world of Horizon, to the point where it's like, well, okay, this isn't my favorite game in the world, and I wish Aloy had some more personality and was a little bit more interesting, but that overcomes it. Because if a video game is good, that's all that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what sort of person the lead character is for most people. But then you have situations with like Star Wars Outlaws, where if you weren't interested in Star Wars Outlaws, it was automatically because it was a female lead character. And I played and beat that game, and I've talked about that several times on this channel. Kay Vess could have been anyone. Could have been a man, could have been a child, could have been a tiger. Like, it doesn't matter. The game itself was not a good game. And to, you know, just diminish people for not playing that game because of the fact that it was a female lead character is ridiculous. Because yes, there's always going to be a small contingency of people that are of the extreme mindset, you know, and you can't give them too much like, okay, you don't want to buy the game because it's a woman character, fine. There's many people look at it, most people I should say, look at a game for what it is to see if it is interesting to them. And as long as it's interesting to them, they will support the game. Star Wars Outlaws was not an interesting game. Wasn't a well done game. The game itself was fundamentally bad. But then, of course, you have victories with the woman character and stuff like that. Look at the new Zelda game, Echoes of Wisdom. That game is selling exponentially well. It's the second highest selling game of all time in Japan for a launch of a game. So why isn't there a conversation around that? I know I made jokes about it, but there's no conversation around, oh, we got to play a Zelda? A woman? Oh, I don't want to do that. No, nobody cares. Because it's a Zelda game. There's a certain level of quality that those games have. And although that game does have fundamental problems, none of it is because of the character itself. None of it is because of the character being a woman. And then you have the situation with Ghost of Yotei. Yotei, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. We're going to say Yotei because it reminds me of the Yeti from WCW. Where now this is the whole culture war thing. And of course, immediately, and this even happened on the Spawncast. Now, I was switching computers when this conversation was having, so I wasn't able to share my 2 cents, but some people felt that people were immediately writing off this game because it did have a female protagonist. And that was the main reason that there was any sort of concern with the game, which I don't think was a really fair assessment, in my opinion. Because, yes, it does star a female lead character, but I feel like most people, you know, there was no concern with it. You're going to have your Twitter, you know, shit posting accounts and stuff like that. And you're going to have, you know, some fringe people automatically write the game off because it has a female lead character. Fine, whatever. You know, that doesn't make up a vast majority of the marketplace. But once you start to look at the vast majority of the marketplace, it's like, well, where did the concerns arise? And if you look at the lead, the character who is the lead character of the game, and you look at their social media, they're a very outspoken person. Now, I believe anyone should be able to, you know, say whatever they want as long as it's not, you know, like hurting people or stuff like that. So that's fine. They can be an outspoken person. They could be someone that is a bit, I guess you would say, maybe counterculture or something like that, going against societal norms for a lot of things. But there is going to be some sort of backlash towards that because not everyone is going to view the world as you view it. And when you look at some of these tweets and their takes, they could be a little bit off-putting for some people. And to automatically assume that everyone hates the game because it's a woman and not because they're concerned that there is a potential that the actress for the game could have ideologies that somehow play into the game or something like that. Like, nobody knows. That's the thing. Nobody knows. But if think about it in another context, if the person was the opposite side of the spectrum as far as outspoken things and inverse with it, like, do your own research, because I don't really care about it. I just think that it is a point to bring up. If you have a polarizing personality that can be off-putting to a large segment of people, whether it's any sort of people, that's going to be something that plays into people's minds. And we, of course, have this whole veil that has been lifted for the video game industry. Well, now you know all these people's, you know, beliefs on everything, because people just love to talk about their beliefs and, think that they are, just so important that everyone needs to know what they think at every waking moment. And it's this whole, bigger issue of social media, but that can be very off-putting. And that could be a bit concerning. Is this going to bleed into the character potentially? But to just write it off as, oh, you hate the game because it's a female lead character, that's ridiculous to me. That's ridiculous. And what it does is it shuts down any sort of real conversation to have. Because if this person was on the inverse, let's say they were a bit more of a conservative person, you would have people bringing that up. That's just how the world is. Not everyone views things the same ways. Not everyone's belief system is this, that, or the other. But when you see things like that, it can be a little bit off-putting. Am I still interested in the game? Yes. Do I care if a game has a female lead character? No. I care if the video game is good. I care if the characters are well written. I care if things make sense and we're not just changing things just to change things to try to appease to certain people or stuff like that. Like, make the game that you want to make, but also, keep it real with the situation. Keep it real. I don't think gamers, by large, hate women characters. I think there are some, but I think people don't like it when they're constantly told that they don't like a game or they're not supporting a game because it has a female lead character or a main character of the game. When in actuality, that's just closing down any sort of conversation that you can have. I think extremists on both sides are pretty much idiots, but that's just my opinion. If their opinion is different than mine, that's fine. That's not going to affect me and my day and how I go about things. I'm just someone who views things on a case by case basis. And in this situation, I can see why some people could be potentially concerned about things with the game. But if you automatically write the game off already without even, seeing any sort of substantial gameplay or something, I feel like you might be selling yourself short on it. Kind of an open dialogue, a conversation. So no, I don't think gamers hate women characters. I mean, I guess there are some, but you can't give those sorts of people just credit. You have to understand the reasoning behind concerns with certain games, whether it's because the game itself doesn't look very good, or whether it's because the people involved in the game, they're very outspoken, whether any side of the spectrum that it comes down to. It's like, bro, this is entertainment. People want to play video games to be entertained. And if a game is good, it'll overcome any sort of woman character being a problem, in my opinion. Maybe your opinion is different. I don't know. That's the beauty of life. Everyone's supposed to have different opinions on things. And if you agree with me, that's cool. If you disagree with me, that's cool too, man. It's an open dialogue. Like, don't take shit personally with this sort of stuff. So let me know what you think of this in the comment section down below. Do you think that many gamers do just hate women and women characters? Or do you think there is a bit more nuance to the conversation with it? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what I said, hit the subscribe button. If you didn't, I guess dislike the video. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.